Hello there, my name is Irina. I'm an English teacher who lives in Russia, and today is Christmas. So happy Christmas to you all. And we are getting closer to the end of the year, and I thought it would be nice to wrap it all up with a video where I share the books that I read this year, right? Ta-da! It's not a big stack, I know that, but still it makes me want to feel proud of myself, because a few years ago I was, just dreaming of reading more than one book a year. That was a huge goal of mine, so ta-da, here we are. Most of the books are covered in this wrapping paper or craft paper, whatever you call it, just because it helps me to keep the books clean and neat. That's it. But you will see the covers anyway, because I'm going to attach them somewhere here. Okay. These books are all in English because I love reading paperback books. I want to continue reading them. But I read books in Russian on a Russian platform that I have a subscription to. So I will be mentioning a few more books in Russian, ebooks in Russian, really briefly. Let's dive right into it. And we are going to start with the recent book that I read, and that is The Heart Goes Last by Margaret Atwood. I don't know how she does it, but she manages to create such a good piece of dystopian fiction that I forget about everything. I love her books so much. I love the wording, I love the style, although I'm not a big fan of the genre, but she does it so well that it leaves me speechless every time. This particular book, The Heart Goes Last, covers the story of a couple who finds themselves living in the society which creates prostibots or robots for having an intercourse. Those robots have faces of real people. On top of that, people are capable of doing a surgery on a human's brain. And that is such a twisted story. Sometimes, I was like, what the heck is going on? Like, that is not real. That you cannot buy this, right? You cannot believe this. But then living in Russia, you find it totally relatable. Like, there is this brainwash and everything, and then like, it's so worth it. Although the story is really tricky, it's not to everyone's taste, but I love it. So good. Then we have The Handmaid's Tale by Margaret Atwood. I actually started reading it back in 2023 in summer, and it took me so long because that was the first book of Margaret Atwood that I read, and it took me a while to get used to the language, the wording, to the style, and to even absorb everything that was going on, So I was reading this book really long. Anyway, I love it. So I'm sure you know and you have heard of the story, The Handmaid's Tale, so I'm not gonna talk much about it. I just love it. The next book is the sequel of The Handmaid's Tale, The Testaments. And I need to say that this book, the second part of The Handmaid's Tale, is even better than the first one. It got me hooked. I was so into the book that I couldn't stop reading. The plot is really twisted. We don't see Offred anymore. We just see the girls, who still live in Gilead. And I want to read out a small excerpt. "That's where you were born," he said, "in Gilead." "You're joking," I said. "You were smuggled out by your mother and Mayday. That risked their lives. Gilead made a big fuss about it. They wanted you back. They said your so-called legal parents had the right to claim you. Mayday hid you. There were a lot of people looking for you, plus a media blitz. Like baby Nicole," I said. "I wrote an essay about her at school." Elijah looked down at the floor again. Then he looked straight at me. "You are baby Nicole." So we get to know baby Nicole better. And I'm not going to say anymore because that will be saying too much, too much. I love the testaments a lot. There are 3 girls, 3 women who live in Gilead, who are trying to get out of it, right? And the story is just fantastic. Another story which was hyped a lot is It Ends With Us by Colin Hoover. And compared to everything that I've read by Margaret Atwood, that was such an easy read. The language is so simple. There are not so many, flowery phrases. That is a really, really easy language, the modern language. So you can start reading this book even if you are currently at an intermediate level. Although you will find a lot of idioms and collocations which can be used in your everyday life. So give it a go. The story itself is not an easy one. Well, to me, it happened that way. I got this book for my birthday last year, but I was waiting for the movie to come out. And then I went to the cinema to see it, and I was sobbing and bawling my eyes out after watching it. I couldn't stop crying. Whew. It still makes me really, really emotional. The movie is so emotional for me because I know what it means to be in an abusive relationship. So, the book is actually a little copy of the movie, or better say vice versa. The movie is a little copy of the book. Like you can find the dialogues, the same dialogues from the book in the movie. So it was good, but it was like as if I had this feeling as if I'm repeating myself, so having the same story, having a deja vu or something. So that was good. That is totally worth it. Love it. Just love it. On the contrary, the sequel of the book, It Starts With Us. Oh my God. I don't know why this book was written. Honestly, even for me, a person who loves stories, this book is a little bit too vanilla. I was listening to a few interviews of Colin Hoover, and she said that people were asking her to write a happy ending. But that is too long. Like, the happy ending could happen like during, 100 pages or something like that. So that was a little bit too long, a little vanilla, a little, I don't know. I don't have words to describe this book. That was not really worth it. Again, a very easy read, a logical ending to the story, and everything seems to be perfect, but still you're kind of not impressed. It just leaves you with nothing. It's just a little too bland, I would say. Yeah, so as the sequel to the story It Ends With Us, yes, you can read it, yeah, just to get everything done and tick all the boxes in your head. But honestly, no. And I'm going to the list of my books in Russian. I will be telling you about them in English though. So I hope you find them useful. And if there is something like that in English, I'll try to, I don't know, give you some recommendations or something like that. So the first book was Финская система обучения, but you can find it in English too. It's called Teach Like Finland, 33 Simple Strategies for a Joyful Classroom. And that's it. That's the key idea that runs all through the book, you know. The main thing about studying is the fun, the joy that you are getting. And in our schools, well, at least in Russia, we have this system which is too focused on the marks, the grades. And I think it's vitally important to switch that focus from the grades to the process, how well it is organized, how joyful it is, right? So make it a little bit more for the kids than for the grades. That's it. I loved the book. Although it could be a little bit shorter, but in general, the ideas are great. Next up is Нежно, денежно, книга о деньгах и душевном спокойствии. I love the title. And I started reading it because I was in a very bad financial situation. And I was hoping to find some strategies to basically cope with this situation. But you know, since there can be lots of different things connected with money, there were also too many pieces of advice given there in the book to deal with the problems, like, you know, your, I don't know, traumatic experience connected with money, your fears and stuff like that. So while I was taking notes, the notes were great, but there were so few of them that could be of a help to me in particular, that I would just skip some of the chapters. Like literally, I couldn't finish the whole book because it was not very useful. Not every chapter was useful for me. So, but I would like to share a few ideas that I loved. First off is we are afraid of both having a huge income, like a sudden increase of income, and a sudden loss of money. Equally, we are afraid of both. And that is quite something, because I was experiencing that, you know, I was really, really worried and really, I don't know, anxious, because I have never been in such a situation, you know, I have never had to deal with that. Like, I earned so little that I couldn't make the ends meet, you know, and that anxiety is overwhelming. So, and that was like this idea that hit me. We are equally afraid of both of them, yeah, of a huge income and the loss of money. Another great idea in the book was about the soft skills. So when we are setting a price for our services, we usually talk about the product itself, right? Like how great it is. We enumerate all the qualities and advantages of it. But sometimes we forget about the soft skills that are included into this service, right? For instance, I'm an English teacher, and sometimes I forget about the things that I do for my students. Yeah, like I help them write their CVs, for instance, or I help them deal with the stress. I generally create such an atmosphere where they feel relaxed and comfortable. And that is a huge thing nowadays, right? Like in this stressful world, there is this little island of stability, which is our classes. And I think it should be included into the price itself. So never forget about your soft skills when you're setting a price for your services. And the final book that I read was also in Russian, and it's called Самокоучинг, Марии Чмух. There were lots of lovely ideas. I'm just gonna attach like screenshots from the notes that I have taken. I would just generally say that this book was so useful to me because I could reflect on my life, the processes that were going on with me, you know. I would say you should consider reading it, especially if you don't have enough money to work with a coach, a therapist, you know, a shrink. Give it a go. Feel free to read it. That's it. So I have got 5 or 6 more days to go until the year finishes. And I think I will continue working on my reading. So far, I'm reading 2 books. One on my own, and that is The Martian by Andy Weir. And the second one is Eat, Pray, Love by Elizabeth Gilbert. And I'm reading it together with my students. So I'm reading, creating some tasks, reading, creating some guides. Yeah. So far, I really, really love it and enjoy it. There's so much to talk about women's rights, men's rights, marriage, and the whole experience about being married and having kids and everything. So I hope it will continue to be as good as it is now. That's it for today, and actually for the whole year 2024. I hope you liked this video. Let me know if you have read the books or you want to read them. It's on your TBR. Please share your thoughts and questions, whatever you have, your comments in the section below the video. I hope you have a great day. See you soon.